Because see, when you're broken and you still have broken thought patterns and the way you see things, boundaries feel like rejection.
It does.
Yeah, and it still seems like if somebody puts a boundary up, it's like, oh, they don't like me, they don't love me, which is nothing further from the truth. It's just the perspective of the person you put the boundary up doesn't have the kingdom mindset to see like this is for protection for both of us, you know? Nicole Dotson,
Yes.
how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming in for a bit to talk.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's jump right into it because we have a great topic that you had brought up, and why don't you tell everybody what's that topic?
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Okay, that one is one that burnt me a lot of times in my life, and I've gotten a lot better at it since then. But why don't you tell me like right off what working in this field, because like in this field a lot of things people don't understand, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying like if I've never been a lawyer, I don't know how to practice law, but like so there's so many things that people would probably not think about working in this field. And so tell me like why boundaries are so important when you do work in the field of substance abuse.
I think it's important because I love you and I want the best for you, but I can't carry what you're carrying. I can walk you through it, and I don't have a wall up. I have a guardrail up.
Tell me about that guardrail. That's intriguing thought to me because a guardrail is not a wall.
No. I just, in my mind, when I come to work every day, I put my guardrail up.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's a loving guardrail.
Yeah.
But I can tell you no.
Right.
I have the authority to tell you no. And I've lived experience.
Yeah.
And I know that no is going to benefit you in your recovery.
Yeah.
So.
And what's crazy is like that is one of the hardest things for people is to establish the boundaries when they come into this field to work, because we're so used to like living in a world, especially coming out of addiction, where there's no boundaries.
None.
Boundaries don't exist.
No.
So when you step into this, and honestly, I didn't always have the greatest teachers for boundaries.
I didn't either.
Yeah, and I was one of them. So, but it's true though. I wasn't the greatest back then, and I've improved tremendously because the lack of boundaries ended up getting me like hurt, truly, really bad, and so. Since then, I've had to watch, though, because we got to watch not to, the difference between, like you said, the guardrail and the wall. Like the guardrail will keep your heart safe, but the wall will keep your heart closed off from every good thing.
Exactly.
Even. And so that's really good. It's funny, too, that you talked about the load. There's this story in the Bible actually that is very like I can't believe you said that. It's so crazy. I'm not gonna read it all, but I'm just gonna tell you where it's at, just so that people can like go look it up if they want to. There's this story in the Bible that speaks of boundaries that I've always thought what you said a minute ago about like I can't carry your load, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this story. It says it's Paul talking about, and I don't remember the exact address. We'll have to look it up and put it on the screen. But he's talking about carrying your load.
Luke 5, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. See, you go, girl. And so you carry your load, right? But it says you help people carry their burdens.
Right.
But it's their responsibility to carry their own load.
Yep.
And I think that's where in this field that gets really muddy, don't it?
It does.
Because it's like people are like, okay, well, our job is to help someone through this, so I'm going to help them carry this burden. But you're only supposed to help them carry that burden to the altar to lay it down. And then at that point, they're still going to have a load. They ain't going to have nothing. It ain't like you're going to be like, all right, your burden is gone. Let me grab your load for you.
Right.
And so we have to get people to understand that part of boundaries is making people responsible for their own actions that they need to do in order to sustain the freedom they find here.
Right. Like if they come in here and nobody has boundaries for them, they're going to walk out of here And nothing's really changed.
No.
Their mindset is still like, I need this. Will you take care of this?
Yep.
Will you, and I'm not going to do that for you.
Right.
I will help you.
Yes.
But I'm not always going to be here for you.
Right. And I think that's important for people to know, because I think that many times when people come in, and it might be, especially if it's their first time through, this can all almost seem like forever. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
They can think, well, the rest of my life I'm going to have Nicole to help me with my meds. The rest of my life I'm going to have, Carlos to help me with this, Nico to help, whatever it is. And so I think that's why it's so important that we do teach them boundaries. And what are some of the ways that you personally try to teach boundaries to the clients?
When I was in Angels, there was a certain place and time to have questions answered or whatever. A lot of times they leave group, or they want to go to the bathroom, and I revert to them and say, you can come back on your break, or you can come back on lunch, because just because you want something doesn't mean you're not going to get it. We can make that phone call, but it's going to be on my time.
Right. That's important too, because we're battling rebellion. 100% of the people that walk through that door
absolutely
have rebellion, right?
Yes.
So that means that anytime that there is authority, they're going to try to buck it in the beginning, and they're going to try to push back against it.
Yeah.
And so how do you handle that? Are you just firm with them in that moment? Like, nope, this is how it is.
I'm very firm.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have, it is what it is. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, and I've been in this position, like, you got yourself in this situation. You need to,
get help. Yeah. You'll help, but you got to get yourself out of it.
Right.
And I think that's so important too, because, like a big part of recovery, yes, we preach, you don't do it alone. You need a family around you and all that. But at the same time, there is a responsibility that you hold to sustain your own freedom through, your spiritual maturity, which is
prayer, word, worship.
You go, girl. You never forget it.
Yeah.
And so it's like those things like every morning when I wake up, my little routine is red light, prayer, read, and then worship. Yeah. And that way my days are starting off like the way they should. But anyways, when it comes back to boundaries, I've always pictured boundaries too as like, and I read this one time, but it gave me a great visual. So I don't want to say I don't want to plagiarize it, but it was an illustration of a yard, right? Like your heart being like a yard. And inside of that yard, it was up to you, like where you put the fences, what you allowed the seeds you allowed to come into there to grow, and like what was actually in your yard, and to examine your heart and be like, okay, what's in my yard, you know? And so I've thought of that many times because I'm a very visual person. So I think about whenever something comes along, it's my job to allow it to hit my heart and be planted, or it's my job to reject it also. Is that a part of boundaries that you practice often?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a key way to like guard your heart. It really is. Lack of boundaries will make you give your heart to people who will trample on it. Have you experienced that? Yeah, me too. What did you do? Let me ask you this. Your response to that, because this is the important part. How did you respond to that?
I don't know. Before I was spiritually mature, I guess of course I didn't have boundaries, and I don't know how to answer that.
Did you just allow people to like trample on your heart?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah. Which is the hardest thing to break a lot of times because you get so used to that.
Yeah. And then when I became spiritually mature and, in recovery for a long time, I never put my walls down.
Right.
You know, and then to let the right people in to,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the good thing too, is letting the right people in, but keeping the door. That's been one of the hardest things for me, like in this season after, what all we've been through. More than most. You were at first, you've literally been there for the whole journey. But, like after you get hurt like that, I've noticed with boundaries, lack of boundaries will get you hurt. But once you get hurt, a lot of times the response that I had initially was isolation. I just wanted to be away from everybody because in my mind, if nobody's around me, they can't hurt me anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a flawed thought pattern because you're never going to be who God called you to be thinking that way. But at the same time, I think our trauma almost can, when we feel something familiar to what, that felt like, we can immediately shut down or shut it down.
Yeah. I'm the same.
You do that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel something, honestly, I feel like something that may feel like division, right? And it'll feel familiar to something I experienced before that was very hurtful. And something I never did before, Nicole, was like, I never just shut that door and said like, nope, that I got to cut that out of my life, whether it be person, whatever. And now I don't have any problem at all doing that because after you go through enough hell, you're like, I'm never going to not have that boundary up now because I'm never letting that garbage back into my life to destroy it because I know God is not, his desire is not for me to push away.
Yeah.
His desire is for me to pull people closer, but do it with his heart. And what I've came to the conclusion of is his heart loves abandonedly without any type of expectation of return. And that's what I've had to get my heart back to. And I think good boundaries is where you find that, It's like, that's where you ultimately find that.
Yeah. I seen a thing on Facebook, and that's when it really struck me about boundaries, not even in recovery, but biblical. It said, boundaries are biblical. Jesus walked away.
Oh, he did too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Think about how many times he did that.
I know. And I didn't realize that until I read that. And then
wow,
I researched it, and he did.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
Like, there would be many times he'd be like, I'll meet y'all on the other side of the lake or whatever. And he would take his own personal time. He would put boundaries up. And, yeah, that is pretty phenomenal when you think about it because the great example that it sets for us. It shows you, too, because, see, when you're broken and you still have broken thought patterns and the way you see things, boundaries feel like rejection.
It does.
Yeah, and it still seems like if somebody puts a boundary up, it's like, oh, they don't like me, they don't love me, which is nothing further from the truth. It's just the perspective of the person you put the boundary up doesn't have the kingdom mindset to see, like, this is for protection for both of us, you know? And so that's really good. And so how do you, like, decide, okay, something comes into your heart, you have that, let's say the lawn, let's use that analogy, right? With fences around it.
Okay.
What determines what you allow to come into that yard?
Someone that's truthful, honest, spiritual. I could go on.
Yeah.
A motivator. Somebody with good intentions, a pure heart.
Yeah. That's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have that, then you're not in my lawn.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I've got, which is so odd for me. This new way of living is so odd for me because I lived for a decade with just like open boundaries, think everybody in the world loves you. And, obviously I wasn't that naive, but, like you don't ever believe certain things can happen. But then there's other people that are very guarded, and it's smarter to go in that way, honestly, and so I had to learn the hard way about boundaries because, again, like, the teachers weren't the best.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things I wanted to, before we get ready to, we're going to do this like in a 2-part series. We'll just be part 1. But there was a couple of things I wanted to mention before we close this one out, and that is ultimately there's 4 types of people that lack boundaries. You want to hear the 4?
I do.
Okay, the first one is selfish people. And here's their thought pattern is this: I won't carry my brother's burden, which is like, think about the burden, right? Somebody needs help getting that burden to the feet of Christ. And there's the selfish person that says, nope, I won't do it. There's number 1. Okay. Number 2 is the prideful person. And this is what they say: I have a burden that I need help carrying, but I'm not going to allow anybody to help me carry it because I'm too prideful to talk about my burden. And, and I've lived that one before, honestly. And so that's the second person, the prideful person. The third person is the codependent person. And this is what they do. Like, so, you know, we have the load and the burden we talked about. It says they don't even take responsibility for their load. They expect somebody else to pick their load up for them and do it for them. And that's the third type of person that has zero boundaries. And then the fourth one is an enabling person. And what they do is, so if somebody has a load, they're the ones that's like, here, honey, let me carry that for you. Here, let me do that for you. And that's a lack of boundary. It's a lack of them knowing like healthy boundaries. And so I think out of all four of those, I can identify especially with the second one, because it's like never in the past, I never wanted to share because I always feel like I had to be the strong one. Yeah. So I didn't want to share all my broken, you know, thoughts and things I was carrying because in my mind, which is very flawed thinking, I believed I had to carry it for all of you guys. Yeah. And it wasn't true. And so it's been a good lesson, but, you know, like, so if you could identify yourself as one of those four, what would you say?
Prideful.
The prideful one? Yeah. Same. Or just hard to admit, like, I need help. And yeah, I've lived, and you know what, that's crazy because what I've learned through Pastor Dave's really taught me a lot about just leadership and the way he even leads. It's not like he doesn't come and like track you down, you know, but he's there anytime you need him, and because he has a boundary, you know, like his boundaries, they're not going to go chase people down, and I love that. But he has taught me a new level of vulnerability, like that I can, you know, live in, and I've even tried to practice that more with you guys, you know, like to be very, very just transparent with y'all, and so I think we're all growing, we're all working, in great ways together, and so you are one of the best case managers I've ever seen in my whole entire life.
Thank you.
And that's no cap, that's for real. So we'll end here and we'll pick back up. So you guys look for part 2.
Yes.
We didn't get very much time today, so we'll finish this thing up.
Yes, part 2.
Part 2 will be coming soon. God bless you guys. See you soon. Peace.